Hello, you retards and fuckheads, and welcome to another edition of my exciting show. The name of this show is News of the Day, and that's where I take stories that are running through the news cycle and try to put a biblical slant on them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't understand algorithms. Sometimes I'll make a post and it'll have more than 1,000 views, and other times I'll make an upload or a post and it'll have 20. So try to figure that one out. But I am up to 65 subscribers on YouTube. I'd like to thank them for subscribing. It's a hobby, so what the heck. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get on with the show. First story. I was laying in bed last night. I live in Asia. And that's where my home is right now, is in Asia. I'm planning on going back to America in January or February. And I only get like three news stations really. I get BBC, CNN, and Fox News. So I was laying in bed and I'm watching Fox News. And at 11 p.m. my time, Kimberly Cheatle was being grilled by members of Congress about the fuck up that happened when Orange Donald almost got his head blown off. And quite frankly, I wasn't impressed with either side. Kimberly Cheatle just kept saying, I have no idea. They'd ask her a question, I have no idea, you gotta ask the FBI. And the congressman, senators or whatever, I think it's the Congress, the House, they were saying, the House, they were saying, hey, you're a real loser and you need to resign, and just screaming at her basically. And she'd say, I appreciate how you feel, but you got to ask the FBI. It was a real, I don't know what you'd expect. It was just a show. Right, I did learn a couple of things. First of all, in my last video a couple nights ago, one of my last videos, I said that the ladder had been taken out of play and debunked. Well, that's not true. Now, again, there might have been a ladder. Cheatle wouldn't tell us. And another thing we learned from one of the congressmen is that the FBI might have cleaned the roof after the shooting, scrubbed it down, which is, kind of crazy, right? Because what happens when you wash something? You get rid of all the evidence, right? But what do you expect? That's kind of what we expected. And, Nancy Mace said shit, and I guess that's supposed to be a big deal. She said, Cheatle, you're full of shit, Everybody applauded, in TV land. Oh, good, good, good. But I had the feeling that people were pissing on my head and telling me it's raining. Because this is such a setup. When you look at all the facts, it's a setup. That gun was on the roof. Now there might have been a ladder next to the building. That kid was walking around for an hour. Law enforcement saw him. The fix was in. They had planned, whoever it was, to kill Orange Donald. The fix was in. And it makes me wonder about Kimberly Cheatle. Is she a patsy? Obviously, after last night's performance, there's no way she's ever going to keep her job. She's going to have to resign. And if she doesn't resign, she's going to get fired. It was one of the most pitiful. It's obvious she's never been in front of a camera much. Let's put it that way. She had absolutely no charm or appeal. And she just kept repeating the same line over and over. Ask the FBI. We're waiting for the final investigation. Ask the FBI. Over and over ad nauseum. Which brings me to my point. Like, if I were on that committee, I would have had a different line of questioning. I would have said, Miss Cheatle, and I've been polite. I wouldn't have said, hey, you idiot, you retard, that kind of thing. I do that on YouTube, but I wouldn't do it. And obviously, if I met you, I wouldn't say, hey, you fuckhead, you retard. It's just a shtick, right? I'd have said, Miss Cheatle, did you try to kill the president? And she would have had to answer. She'd have said, no, of course not. And I would have pointed out to her, do you think it's normal for a kid, in a real friendly conversational tone, not something for a news bite, do you think it's normal for a kid this age with a rangefinder to be walking around for an hour? She would have said, no. Do you think it's normal that a ladder might be up against the fence or up against a building already there? Do you think it's normal, Miss Cheatle, that they'd have a rifle up on the roof, awaiting him to come, for him to just arrive, walk up there and do the dirty deed? Is that normal? Is any of this normal to you? So are you in on it? You're not in on it. Okay. Then are you a patsy? Then I would have gone, I said, do you know anyone in the government who would like to have this guy killed? Because it's obviously a setup. That's how I would have done it. A few people did broach the subject of a setup. They don't say it out loud. They do it in lawyerly talk, But what's the point of yelling at her? She's already, you're not going to get any information from her if you yell at her. Again, it's just for sound bites. Like one guy was saying, this is what happens when the nation goes DEI. You're an example of DEI and all this kind of crap. And you learn nothing, in my opinion. It might make you feel better. It might get you more votes. But basically, we didn't learn a fucking thing. Anyway, that's my opinion. And my opinion is I don't think she knows what the hell's going on. I think she's a bureaucrat. And she, whoever set this up is deep into the whole machine, right? You're talking about somebody who's either in the CIA or the NSA or who knows some FBI, some high level figure in the shadows and all kinds of things. It's not her. Trust me. This dingbat, there's no way. She's out of her depth and she's drowning. That's what it looked like. A woman who's completely out of her depth. She's waving her arms around, and instead of throwing her a brick, they should have used reverse psychology and thrown her a life raft with a little leak, right? Let her, sometimes honey attracts more flies, right? I don't know, you know the saying. Anyway, second story is Kamala. Well, it's actually Kamala-esque. It's really about Biden. He's coming back to the White House supposedly tomorrow. And the New York Post ran a story saying that behind the scenes, the reason he left is this has been going on for a long time, trying to get him out. And that the debate itself was a setup. They said, let's roll him out there against Trump. And let's see, don't give him any drugs. You remember the State of the Union when he was in Adderall or some type of speed and he was screaming and yelling and he was really tweaking out up there, He looked like a man on drugs. Well, this time they didn't give him any drugs. And the CNN was told to stand down, like the commentators, Jake Tapper and Dana Bashir. Is that her name, Dana Bashir? Anyway, they were told, look, say nothing. Let him answer the question, say nothing. Because usually when Trump is in a debate, whether it's on Fox News or CNN, there's always somebody interrupted, insulting him or calling him a liar and whatnot. You notice this debate, they didn't say a word. They just let poor old Joe drown in a sea of his own incompetence, right? And the final thing that they said to Joe, supposedly according to this article, is that, look, you're either leaving, standing up with dignity, or we're forcing you out the door. We're going to use the 25th Amendment and tell the entire world that you're an incompetent old boob. So you got a choice. You either walk out or we carry you out. And he chose to walk out. And that kind of makes sense to me. And so there's that debate in a way, because he was completely bereft of any type of energy. You know, he looked like a walking corpse. And you compare that with the State of the Union, and you look at that Dana Bashir and that Jake Tapper. Again, they were silent. And again, what is that called? Set up. They set him up for failure. It's not as bad as shooting them like they did to Orange Donald, but it's still a setup. Anyway, I'm at 10 minutes. Boy, time flies, right? I don't like to make things more than 10 minutes. Biblical slant. Let me think real quick. Nothing's coming to mind right now. I would say this. I would go back to King Ahab when he wanted the vineyard, and he pouted because he couldn't have the vineyard. And he finally decided with his wife's help, hey, why don't I just go kill the guy? And then I'll take his vineyard. Who cares? I'm the king. And that's what he did. And it's kind of like these people behind the scenes. One of them is Obama. Now, let's not kid ourselves. This guy's a real piece of work, and I voted for him back in 2008, the last time I was in America. And I got to tell you something about this guy. He plays hardball, and he's not a nice person at all. Still, I liked him better than McCain. McCain was endless war, Ugh. Anyway, I liked him better than Romney. Anyway, I'm a registered independent, and I always choose the lesser of evils. But I'm going to tell you something. Maybe I made a mistake the first time with his Obama. I was so tired of seeing American boys coming home in body bags. I figured he wouldn't be as warlike. That was after the whole Iraq, when we found out Bush had just fucking lied to us. Right? All these kids are coming home with their legs blown off and everything else, and you find out it's all just a bunch of bullshit. It was a protest vote. But yeah, maybe I made a mistake. I'm starting to rethink that, because this guy, he's definitely a piece of work. He's like an Ahab. Well, his woman doesn't control him as much as Ahab let Jezebel control him, but he's still this Obama's still like a amoral son of a bitch, right? Ugh. Anyway, I'm going to leave. If you like this video, press like. And if you want to subscribe, press subscribe and become a member, right? I'm not making any money off of this or anything. It's just a hobby. Anyway, God bless you and have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.